President Biden is meeting today with Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell and Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, in addition to other financial regulators. At issue are two big-ticket items on the Biden agenda: climate change and the promotion of economic equality. But it's impossible to ignore that this meeting is happening while the country debates what is actually going on with the economy post-pandemic. As Heather Long writes in the Washington Post, what Americans are encountering is almost unrecognizable from just 16 months ago. Prices are up, housing is scarce, it takes months longer than normal to get furniture, appliances, and numerous parts delivered, and there is a great dislocation between millions of unemployed workers and millions of vacant jobs. All right, joining us now is our friend Robin Farzad, the host of NPR's Full Disclosure podcast. So, Robin, great to see you, first of all. And we should say that this meeting marks Biden's first face-to-face encounter with many of the leading federal regulators of the banking industry and financial markets, including the Fed chairman. And the Fed, as I understand it, is worried about inflation. Why? And explain this to me like I'm a fifth grader, because I have about the same level of understanding about how all this stuff works.
The Federal Reserve of the United States is the biggest banker in the world. It controls this gigantic spigot, right? And by slashing interest rates, it floods the U.S. economy and the world economy with dollars. It makes lending very cheap. It's out there further buying all sorts of securities to smoke people into taking risk. You could look at your savings account yield. You could look at what a mortgage costs these days. And it has been at pretty much, let's call it free money policy ever since this pandemic took hold. And that's something that is both exhilarating if you're somebody who wants to buy a house, if you want to take risks in the stock market, if you want to buy a lawnmower, if you want to get financing on a car, if a car is available. But it's also terrifying because business owners and everyone else doesn't know what happens when he kind of starts to pull this stimulus away. This is unprecedented cheap money. And how dependent is the economy on that financial aid? How much can it stand on its own 2 feet?
Got it. And so because everything is so richly valued, the stock market, the housing market, when the Fed does some hand-wringing and says, oh, I don't know about this whole inflation thing, analysts get nervous, and that's kind of where we are right now. Is that right?
That's right. The Fed, in addition to taking monetary policy down to zero, it has other tools in its quiver. It could go out and buy billions and billions of securities every month. It can browbeat the market. Jerome Powell and the various other Fed governors can say things such as, we don't see ourselves taking rates back up until 2023. But when you see some prevarication like you did last week, a couple of Fed governors came out. Inflationary pressures look higher than usual. We're monitoring the real estate market, labor costs and everything. The markets start to second guess that IOU and say, well, maybe we took too much for granted.
Can I ask you lastly about what's happening at American Airlines? It strikes me that whether it's American Airlines or Taco Bell or a summer camp, we're about to talk with Dasha Burns about a summer camp that doesn't have the staffing they need. There's a labor shortage across the board. What's the deal? What's going on?
It's an unprecedented hangover, Jeff. I mean, if you remember, we had to shut everything down within a week back in the kind of the haze of spring 2020. And bringing those things back, I mean, you can't just do it overnight. You saw what Tom Costello said about furloughed airline workers, about restaurant employees who are subsisting on enhanced unemployment and maybe second guessing how much they want to be in that sector. Maybe they want to do something entrepreneurial. It's vexingly hard kind of to throw off the rust and the cobwebs and suddenly say, all right, we're back. Nothing happened.
Robin Farzad, great to see you as always.